So I think what they're missing in Washington is so much of what the party's doing is theater. You have guys out there that are putting on a show, and that's on all sides. I mean, ultimately, these Lincoln Project people, it's all about clicks for them and money and
Of
all that
course.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that ultimately is not what you're judged on in terms of being a leader. You're judged on, are you actually producing results? Are you moving the electorate in a way that is going to be better? In Florida, we produced results, but we also moved the electorate. We took an electorate that was down the middle, 50-50, and we turned it into a 60-40 victory. Now we're considered a strong red state. That was not the case. In fact, you go back before I got elected governor, people were saying this was going to go blue. That's what people thought. They thought.
He has a point. Like Florida was kind of purple back then. And guess what? It may turn purple again now. His stance on deletion rights for women, what he did, those bills that he signed into law, right? That bill in particular, that alienated a lot of women, a lot of Republican women. His stance on immigration, what he was doing as, basically forcing all, a large segment of, undocumented people out of state. I mean, it is what it is. I ain't mad at him, but that's going to cause some problems, right? Some real problems. That's going to mess up the control you might have had with that Cuban vote, right? When you look at the Latino vote, because it's just a lot of Latino families got broken up over this stuff and had to make tough decisions, right? The stuff he was doing with education. And again, that thing about, slavery helping the black folks. So if you got conservative blacks who are like, man, I don't know about this guy. So through his policies, he's putting the state at risk from going red to purple. And he's saying like, we brought people together. No, he didn't. The Democrats gave up on this state. They didn't really try to beat him. They sent a former Republican down here to fight him, to run against him. And they didn't send a whole lot of money either. It wasn't, the Democrats did what the Republicans are doing now in this upcoming election. They're pulling their money back and they're just kind of conceding the race. You know what I mean? Now that might change because of what's going on in the Middle East, but everything he's saying, he's rolling out all of his talking points unchallenged. He said he would go to DC and his people would upend the order of Washington. That's just another way of saying drain the swamp. I mean, they're not even creative. Okay, how would you do it? Trump couldn't do it. W couldn't do it. H.W. Bush couldn't do it. So how are you going to drain the swamp? What plan do you have? You see what I'm saying? He hasn't been pressed. Brother Griot's in the building. What's good, fam? Good to see you. Thanks for coming through. What plan do you have? He's just talking loud, saying nothing. That's what I hear in my, the Ghetto Boys have a song. It's called Talking Loud, Saying Nothing. And that's the hook. Talking loud, saying nothing. And that's all I'm hearing. Dude talking loud, but he ain't saying nothing. Like, how you going to do all these things? Good thing he's sitting on the panel with his man. He's sitting up there with PBD.
And in fact, during COVID, you heard a lot of that because they're like, oh my gosh, Governor DeSantis has schools open. He's got all this stuff open. It's so unpopular, all this stuff. He's not going to be able to win re-election. There, people were saying that, and they were acting like this was an opportunity for Democrats. Turned out it was the opposite. So I think what you need to you need to unify the Republicans, and you need to win enough independents. If you can't do that, you're just not going to win. And I'm the only one that really has a track record of doing that in Florida. We want independent voters by 18 percentage points. I mean, that's really what you need. But we didn't do it by contorting ourselves or trying to put our finger on the wind. We did what we believed. We told people the truth. We delivered results, and we were able to track people. There are people out there, they don't need to agree with you on everything. But if they see that you're telling them the truth, they know you'll fight more when the chips are down, they will support you. So we've got to do more of that, I think, as the Republicans. But look, I was conservative against the Republican establishment before Donald Trump ever ran, and I'm the same. You know, a lot of those people in D.C., you know, they don't want me to be the candidate. They opposed me. Everything we did in Florida, they've opposed. They opposed us having the state open. They opposed us having schools open. They opposed us fighting the vax mandates and stopping those. They opposed us beating Disney in the parents' rights fight. They've opposed us on getting critical race theory out of our schools. They opposed us on banning sanctuary cities. They opposed me when we sent illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard. So that cabal of Republicans is basically a surrender caucus. They don't actually ever win victories. They're totally fine being the junior partners to the Democrats in the entrenched DC ruling class. That is totally unacceptable. And I fought those guys the whole time. I'm really the only guy that has just beat the left on issue after issue. I mean, we've beat them across the board. We've thoroughly pushed them out of taking over institutions. I mean, for example, higher education. I now have tenured professors in Florida every 5 years. They have to go undergo review. They can be let go. I put 7 conservatives on the trustee board at New College. They fired the president. They got rid of DEI. And now they have a classical liberal arts college like Hillsdale College, and they're bringing in new professors. They're cycling out some of the old professors. The media will say, oh, there's a brain drain leaving New College and this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. If a professor of intersectional Marxism is leaving Florida, that is not a negative for Florida. That's a
so again, he realized in this point in the interview he wasn't going to get challenged on anything. So he brings up this education thing, right? Don't take it from me. When you get a chance, just pull up the rankings and see where Florida rates in education, just in America. We already know where America rates in education with the rest of the developed world. But look where Florida is. I'm going to give you a hint. Start looking towards the bottom. This stuff he talked about, like just then he threw it before he started talking about education and all this stuff that he's talking about. He mentioned sending migrants to Martha's Vineyard. He didn't send any migrants from Florida to Martha's Vineyard. Everyone understands that. And here's the thing, that's still being investigated by the feds. Pat let that go. That's definitely something I would have talked about. Right? They allegedly sent an airplane funded by Florida, money that Florida received from the feds for the pandemic relief. They took money from that fund, chartered a jet or a couple jets, flew that jet out to Texas, loaded up some people who were migrants seeking asylum and had some sort of status in America. So the government had already worked with these people. They didn't go on the Mexican side of the border. They got them once they crossed the border over here, flew them through Florida to Martha's Vineyard. I can't believe he even brought that up. I wouldn't have said a word. He just said that he did that. I wouldn't have said a word because that might be illegal. They're looking at it. That case ain't gone nowhere. The feds are looking at that. I would not have said a word about that. Again, at this point, he realized he's not going to get pressed on anything. So the migrant flight thing, you know what I mean? That's huge. That's huge. And then he just starts going on and on about education. Yeah, tenure, having to, have to renew your tenure every 5 years, have to go to a board or something like that. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. You shouldn't have lifetime tenure. I mean, that just, how do you combat that? You feel me? But, and it is not to say that DeSantis has and his administration hadn't done any good things in Florida. They've done some great things. But Pat is just giving him a pass on all this stuff, bro.